We're live.
We're live?
We are live.
So
Yes, this is so exciting. So hey everybody. My name is Randy Baru of the Corcoran Group, and we are here with Debbie DiMaggio of Corcoran Icon. I am so excited for this inaugural LinkedIn Live chat, and thank you so much, Debbie. I'm so excited to be able to spend this time chatting with you. Debbie is a realtor, author, and philanthropist. She's passionate about fashion, travel, design, and family, and is a bit obsessed with her two kittens, Rigatoni and Tortellini, aka Riggs and Leanie. She's a marketing maven and master of the home mini makeover, which never ceases to amaze. So thank you so much, Debbie, for taking the time to chat on LinkedIn.
yes, thank you, Randy. I'm excited to be here, and I was really excited to meet you in Nashville 2 weeks ago. It was a great experience. So I'm going to introduce you, Randy Baru with
All
Corcoran,
right.
with 20 years of experience as a New York City real estate professional. Randy enjoys a proven record of sales success and lasting relationships with the people he has helped over the course of his career. Whether they are looking to buy, sell, rent, or invest, Randy's attention to detail to his clients' needs have enabled him to consistently exceed their expectations. Randy enjoys exploring New York City restaurants, museums, and parks with his family, and is a member of Corcoran Cares and the Board of Real Estate in New York. Thank you,
And I
Randy.
wish I had a couple kittens. My kids would love them, but unfortunately, we're pet free at the moment.
Might be better with kids.
So this is so great. We're waiting for some more folks to join, but why don't we just get the conversation going? Yeah.
Yes, and if people can make comment or ask questions too, I don't know if you can see that before we get
Yes,
started.
absolutely. We'll be able to see anybody asking questions. We'll respond. That's one of the exciting aspects of this LinkedIn Live, that we can respond to people in real time. So, we had a great opportunity to both participate in a panel discussion about marketing mastery at the B Corcoran event in Nashville. And that's where we met. And you had so many amazing ideas. And I was so excited that when, we talked about doing this LinkedIn Live, you were the first person I thought of, that it would be just a great person to chat with. So why don't we kind of maybe pick up from where that discussion left off, and just talk about maybe some tips for other real estate professionals, as well as people who are out there and might want to have some information about what it might make it easier for them if they're buying, selling, renting, something like that. I know you guys might not do as many rentals out there as we do here, but I think it would be great to share some tips, not only for realtors but also for people looking to buy or sell. So, Debbie, let's talk a bit about some tips for realtors that you find impactful, whether it's in their business or in their marketing.
Sure. So there are three things I thought we might highlight and today, and this could be for realtors or anyone in business who has a product, service, or brand that they're trying to share with their clients. So there's three of them, and then we'll go into a deeper dive together. So the
Great.
first one is tip number one, be authentic. There are so many realtors, there's so many people in business, and there's lots of competition everywhere. So the first thing I think that I learned early on was to be authentic. Be yourself, and you'll learn today how awesome and authentic you are and what you do. And I'm very different. We're all different people. So I don't believe there's competition. I think we're all so unique and different. We just have to be who we are. And then that resonates through. So we'll go
Right.
in a little
I
bit more.
always think that, like, I'm only competing with myself,
Exactly.
because, someone might want someone taller than me, shorter than me. Someone might want to work with a female, or there's so many reasons outside our control that a potential client might want to work with us. And, just focusing on the things that we can control, which is to be as knowledgeable as possible, to be someone who is available and interested to put in the work, to help our clients be successful. Everything within our own purview. That's all we can really do at the end of the day. Sometimes we might be going on a listing pitch in a different neighborhood than we typically work in, but we got this lead, and they might want someone who sold all 10 apartments in the same building. And there's other things that we can do to highlight how we can help them be successful. But authenticity is so important, and it also builds trust, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. What I try to explain, because I also coach, we have 80 agents that we coach and work with in our
Wow.
office. And I always share with them, doesn't matter if you're new or you've been in the business 30 years like I have. If you're a new agent, it doesn't matter. You can always get the answer. You can always text us, call us, tell the client, I'll be right back. If you don't have the answer, let me get right back to you. Be really calm. I'll get right back to you with that. But that person, they might just connect with you because you have things in common. So I always try to train the newer agents, don't panic, just be who you are, and just communicate how you would with anyone. And it may just work out. So not to be fearful of that. And things can strike chords. Sometimes people, I'm 100% Sicilian. Someone might connect with me on that. It could be, there's different ways. So when people go in to get a listing, let's say, or go in any business to go get a contract or whatever, you just never know what that connection will be. So it's just, you're having a conversation with someone and all of a sudden there's something that's going to sync up, or they might sync up better with the other person. So it's not an affront against you. It's really just, you're just really trying to find a common bond and something that you can grow with from there. So just be yourself, and it will work or it won't. It doesn't matter. Just be who you are, because you're going to shine that way and they're going to see you because you're being your authentic self.
Right. And how do you lean into your authentic self in your business? So when you're meeting potential clients or in your marketing, what are some things that highlight different parts of your personality or give you the opportunity to kind of be you and share your special sauce with people?
Well, I can tell you what I did wrong when I was a new agent, so that could get you to where I
Yeah.
am now. I had just just gotten married, just had a baby. Was just getting into real estate. I had a lot of relocation clients behind me, but I was still just getting in. My hair was long. It was, I don't know, my boss, I guess, he wanted me to get a haircut and he wanted me to wear a suit. And, and I tried to wear clothes and cut my hair. And I mean, if you see the photo of how my hair was, I was totally not me. So I couldn't breathe. I couldn't be me. I couldn't express myself. And so about a year later into that, I finally was like, I just have to be who I am. And I remember a realtor friend said, "Oh my God, Debbie, thank you for just being you." So I was totally not being me. I was trying to be what this person wanted me to be. And so for me, like I said, I like fashion. I like hats. I like sunglasses. I like to express myself. I use my hands clearly. So from dressing to just expressing yourself and doing what you love, that's how you become authentically you. You really have to just express who you are. The other thing is doing what you love. So I was working with one of our agents, and he was a very handsome Greek guy. I didn't know anything about him he'd been around forever. And so I was sitting with him and I said, "Well, I see you're Greek, which is cool. Connect with, other Greeks. That's really helpful." I said, "And you're super handsome, but you're so quiet and I don't even know anything about you." I said, "Tell me about you." He said, "Well, I love tennis. I'm a tennis coach." He said all these things that he liked to do. I said, "Well, why is that not in your bio? Why your bio is so benign? So it was the best thing to watch him. He started expressing himself. He started just being more comfortable in his dress, still looked professional, but he wasn't all buttoned up to his neck. And he was, on the tennis, when he's on the tennis court, he was clearly expressing himself and people were relating to him, but he didn't get that. He was like, well, what does tennis have to do with real estate? I said everything.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, when I talk to new agents on my team all the time, I ask them, what are their hobbies? What are they interested in outside of real estate? Because there's a Facebook group for everything. If you're into dogs, you go to the dog park and you could chat with people about dogs and bond with people over your love of dogs. Or, I have kids and one plays soccer and taekwondo and the other one does soccer and ballet, and they all have their own different interests. And, we're able to I meet a lot of their friends' parents at a lot of these events. And we don't talk about real estate per se. I mean, whenever anyone asks you in New York City and, in other cities, I'm sure it's maybe very similar out there. You meet someone and 5 minutes into the conversation, like, oh, so what do you do? So I just say I'm a real estate agent, and that's all I say. And then their next sentence is usually, oh, how's the market? I think they even say how's the market. They didn't even care how the market is sometimes. They probably just think that's what you're supposed to say to a real estate agent. But just leaning into the things that you really love and finding your tribe, finding your community, building your community through in an organic way is much better than just going to like networking events where everyone is there to get something from someone else or to meet someone else. I never go to these networking events. It's not really my thing. I view anything as a networking event. I'm in line at Sweetgreen to buy a salad and I overhear a conversation about, I don't know, movies, Star Wars, and then I will jump in and talk about Star Wars because I love Star Wars. And it's just, I think if you're a people person and you're just open to listening to other people and to reading other people's vibes, that you can connect in that authentic and organic way, right? I think that the best salespeople are people. They're the type of people who are able to build rapport fairly quickly with other people. And the only way to do that is just by being natural. I mean, the fake people out there, you can sniff them out really, really quickly, and it doesn't engender trustful relationship. And, some people are really good at being chameleons and they have many different interests and they can just as easily, be themselves in, different situations. But at the end of the day, I hear what you're saying about attire and things like that. I used to work for a real estate company that always made us wear suits and stuff in the office. And it was early on in my career. I've been doing this for 23 years myself. So, kind of a little while. And when I started out, I was working in rentals and I was a theater director and an actor, and real estate was my day job. And most of my clients were other people in the performing arts or students. I worked way up in Harlem in the most inexpensive apartments to rent in all of New York City. I mean, at the time I was renting $600 to $800 a month studios, $800 to $1,000 a month, one bedrooms. Two bedrooms were like $1,200. Three bedrooms were like $1,200 to $1,300. It was nuts. But all of my clients were like people like me, like, students or people in the arts, people that didn't have a lot of money. And so I would walk around in shorts in the summer or jeans in the winter and just be myself. That kind of looks, in terms of dress, very casual. Like a lot of the clients that I was working with are very casual. And I would just never go into the office unless I was dropping off checks. So once a week, I would rent like 5 apartments a day. I walked out the door at 8 a.m. I came back at 8 p.m., rented 5 apartments a day, had a stack of applications and things like that. And I'd go in once a week with commission checks, like piles of commission checks every week. And I'd go in only to drop off the checks. And I'd drop off the checks and I would leave. And I would get in trouble for not
Oh.
changing my clothes into a suit when I go into the office. And I'm like, that's crazy. I'm in there for 15 minutes dropping off money, making the company money. And they were giving me like a hard time that I didn't like go home, put a suit on, then go to the office, then go back home, change out of my suit. I was walking dogs at the same time and I was auditioning for commercials. So
Oh
I
my,
was like very casually walking dogs in the morning. Then I would do my real estate stuff. Occasionally I'd get an audition for a commercial where I had to, I don't know, be a yuppie or something, and then I would have to go home and change. But like it was tough. And so I just kind of did my own thing, and eventually I left that company, and I they never stopped giving me a hard time about like how I'm coming into the office to bring them money. But
so
yeah, that was crazy.
so
Yeah.
short-sighted. Funny. We've come a long way. We also started in rentals as well, and
Oh, really?
but yeah, we started in rentals a long time ago. But I
But have you
wanted to
always been focusing on the same location in the same area in your real estate
San
career?
Francisco. First, we started, and my husband and I started in San Francisco and started a rental department within a real estate firm. And we did that all over the city. And that was before Craigslist. That was before, I mean, we went through the newspaper, and I guess pretty much the newspaper. Oh, and for rent signs, that property managers or owners, and we would call them, we'd get the listing, then we'd find the buyer and draft the lease. But it was all from newspaper or for rent signs. And then some people had, 30, 60 units that they had multiple buildings in San Francisco, and we would just rent. And it was at a time definitely when everyone was coming into the city to rent. And now with Craigslist and Zillow and all the different things, it's a whole
It was
different
so
thing.
hard. I remember when I was renting an apartment in San Francisco, and there was no central place to find rentals.
Yeah.
I rented a number of apartments. You may have helped me at one point.
I know it could have. That's right. You lived in the city. You're
Yeah.
in New York. But you grew up
Yeah,
in
I
the
went to
cities.
San Francisco State for undergrad. So I lived in the
Okay.
Lower Haight. I lived in North Beach. I lived in the Outer Sunset. And this was all before the .com situation. This was like 1991 to 1995, pretty much.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I could have rented you a place. We were in the city we were doing rentals in San Francisco during that time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, totally different time. Yeah, I had a 2-bedroom apartment in North Beach with a 2-car garage
Oh, wow.
for $850 a month. Right down from Coit Tower.
That's insane. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally insane.
Prices have changed. You mentioned, you were saying I wanted to go back to, so number one was being authentic.
Yeah.
Tip number two is creating opportunities. Anytime I'm getting ready to coach someone. So next Tuesday, I'm going to start helping a guy, coaching him. He wants to get more leads. He's been in the business, but he really needs to bump up his game. So I'm always thinking, okay, I always, review everything. What am I going to talk to him about? How are we going to start? So as we started to plan our talk today, one of them was creating opportunities. So you were saying that you were in line at Sweet Greens and you created an opportunity. First of all, let's break it down. First of all, you went to Sweet Greens to get something to eat. You were standing in line. You were around people. A lot of times agents will be, I'm not getting any deals. I'm not meeting anyone. They're at home. I don't know, waiting for the phone to ring, doing social media. I mean, social media is really good, but you have to be out. People have to see,
be creating opportunities 100%. Yeah.
Right. So, and going back to, doing what you love. If you love to golf, go golf. I'm not a golfer, but if you love, I wish I did, because I think so many deals are done on the.
I agree. I'm not a golfer, and so much is happening on the golf course these days. I have an agent in my office who belongs to a really a golf club that everybody wants to play on the course. So I think he just gets a never-ending supply of people desperate to play on this golf course, and I think it serves him extremely well. He's a great agent and does a lot of business.
Because you're doing what you love. You're out there
Yeah.
playing golf because you love it. And then you're being your authentic self and you're having conversations around what you love to do. So you automatically create a bond. So if it's cooking, going to cooking class, if it's playing tennis or pickleball,
Yep.
I always call
Pickleball.
pickleball, whatever it is, just, book club, music, whatever it is, do that.
Absolutely. I started doing jujitsu, and I meet a lot of people through jujitsu. I meet a lot of people through just other hobbies that I have, or that my kids have. And do you know the book Ninja Selling?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
It's a fantastic book. As I'm gonna look up the author of Ninja Selling. Oh yeah, Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall. A phenomenal book. And he talks about asking these Ford questions whenever you're in this situation. And in the book, he talks about having 50 of these Ford conversations every week, basically, to create these opportunities. And the Ford conversations are, so let's say I'm in Sweet Green, or let's say I'm on the soccer field at my kid's soccer game and I'm talking to the other parents, not talking about ourselves, number one, asking questions, talking to other people. And these Ford questions are about family, about occupations, relationships, and dreams. And asking about family, occupation, relationships, and dreams, you're going to get information from the person that you're chatting about that might give you a little bit of a twig that there may be a real estate move at some point. Family could mean we're having another kid, or our final kid is off to college and now they might be looking to upside, downside. Occupations, relationships, dreams. Where do you want to be in your life? Where do you imagine yourselves? What does the future hold for you? Any vacations? I dream of going to Hawaii. And then you get to learn about this other person in a kind of a deeper way in a short period of time. So if someone talks about their anniversary is coming up, or they're changing jobs, or they're dreaming of going to Hawaii, there's cool article might come up that speaks to one of these points that is brought up in our conversation. And I might remember to just say, hey, Frank, I was just noticed this new hotel opened up in Hawaii. Thought you might be interested for whenever, and it made me think of you, just creating those little connections, but also doing it in a thoughtful way. Knowing that, a good salesperson, I think whatever career you're in, especially in our career, we're always having those antenna out, twigging like when an opportunity might present itself. And so taking an active role in a lot of these conversations, so that you can, a lot of times opportunities will come up, but you won't notice them because you're either self-involved, or you don't want to, you feel embarrassed or shy about making something into a real estate situation. And I'm not talking about being fake. Of course, we want to be authentic. And again, if you're a people person and you like learning about people and listening to them, then, asking the right questions and listening for the answers are only going to build deeper and more meaningful connections with the people in our orbit, so that when some opportunity does potentially present itself, we're there, we could be top of mind, and we could be ready to be able to help someone when they're in need of something, right?
I 100% agree. When I was younger, and I've always been super curious, I'm just a curious person. So this was before real estate, but I've always been super curious, and people would like, oh, you're asking too many questions, or I don't know if they would say nosy, but it was like, I'm just super curious and interested about people. It's completely authentic. And it ended up turning out so well for me in real estate because I'm super curious. I want to know. I grew up in a little town across from San Francisco called Piedmont, very small town with 11,000 people. And my parents lived there. We raised our kids, lived there. We were there for a long time. So it's a very small area. Most people don't live in the same place, haven't lived in the same place, and they've lived everywhere. So for me, I'm super curious. How did you get to New York? You were in San Francisco. You were telling me you were from there. And now you're in New York. And it's like, well, what made you get there? I mean, I literally am so interested to know how people got to where they are. And so it's so easy. I'm not like thinking like, okay, I'm listening for you to like tell me if you're moving again. I'm just curious. So it makes it really easy for me to start a conversation with anyone because I'm really curious. I really want to know. I'm very curious.
It's
and then
so
people
funny.
say like, oh wow, no one's really asked me that, or no one really cares about my story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so interested.
Right, right. I mean, it's so much about just being focused on the other person and being ready to help out when the opportunity presents itself. I mean, when I turned 50, I got a colonoscopy, and which is one of the fun things they tell you to do when you turn 50.
Good.
And literally as I was, and I made some small talk with my doctor, or he made it with me before the operation. What do you do for a living? I'm a real estate agent. When I was coming out of anesthesia, the first thing, he was sitting there and he said, "So Randy, can you help my wife and I find a house in the city, an apartment in the city?" And I was like in a gown from just being operated on. And I'm just like reached for my backpack with my business cards, half on coming off of this anesthesia. And it's like, because even if I'm coming off of anesthesia and I'm sitting in a recovery room, I'm still thinking about like opportunities, where are they coming from? Right.
Yep.
And that was the craziest story that I got of getting a client that I ever had. Of any way of getting a client, that was the craziest. But again, I think, if you're an agent starting out, you want to be proactive. It's so important to create opportunities. You might know someone who's looking, may have casually mentioned they're looking to buy a place in the next 6 months, and then 5 months go by and you may come across someone else who's thinking of selling, and you could think, oh, maybe this is a good match. I remember talking to that potential buyer. This guy wants to sell. It's right in that perfect location, and you just kind of make that match.
Yep.
But if you're not open to it, then you're not going to notice it. And they happen everywhere, from a hospital bed to a soccer field to Sweet Greens to wherever. I mean, you've got to be open to creating these opportunities.
And
Where's the weirdest way that you met a client?
Well, I got a listing once. This one really sticks in my head because I think it was really sweet. We had a really pretty listing. It was a really nice house with a swimming pool. It was beautiful. And I think I sent I don't know, I guess I sent a postcard, or maybe the client gave the brochure to the neighbor. The neighbor's house was a small house in the corner. And about a year went by, and this woman came into the office from San Francisco. I had never met her. She's like, "I'd like to list my ex-husband's house with you." I said, "Oh, how did you find me?" He said, it's a little sad, but he said he had died, and he had my card, and he had my card in a file, and said, when, in his little handwriting, he was an older man, he said, "Please have her list my house when I die." And she had it in the folder in his little note. And I was like, oh my God, that was just so touching. I just, I thought it was really sweet, and it was just nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never know where these things can come from, but you obviously put yourself out there as someone who's trusted, as someone who's focused on helping others, and as an expert and a professional, to the point that someone you kind of casually met made it a point that you represented his estate, you know, when the time came, which I think is an amazing testament to you and to your professionalism and the connections that you make with people. And I think that that is a really sweet story. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
nice.
And we were
So
also,
I want to,
yeah.
let's go to number 3, which is all about Randy today. This one is just, I love this story. When I met you, you told me this story, and it is the one about being creative. So we're in real estate, which is business, but we have to be creative in our business. And I wish we can show it. Actually, after this, we'll post your video on mine, LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn. We'll post the video so people can see what we're talking about. But when we sell a house, and I have some stories, and maybe we can talk about it. If we have time, we'll talk about it today. But the story I want to talk about today is what you did, how creative you were. Very creative. I mean, people are talking now. Everyone has to do video. Everyone should be on Instagram Live. Everyone should be, you know, talking on video and marketing ourselves that way. And not a lot of us are, you know, so comfortable doing that. Maybe we forget what we're going to say when we're, you know, when we go live on Instagram or something. And not everyone could really, I'd say, act. And so you created this amazing video that you showed me on YouTube. It was just spectacular. One of the things that made me feel better after I watched it was you told me you had been an actor and an art director. So I said, okay, I might not ever be able to recreate that, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was so fun to watch. But people can do a version of it. It doesn't have to be to the
You know, it's
extent
just that video that you're talking about, you know, again, it's just me leaning into the things that I'm passionate about, and everybody's passionate about different things. You know, I got my start. I moved to New York after getting my master's degree from this acting program between Carnegie Mellon University and the Moscow Art Theater School. And I came to New York to act and direct in plays. And that was basically my life for like 15 to 20 years. I got my real estate license in 2000 as a day job to support my theater directing. I had recently won a directing award, and I was working for different Broadway producers and brought them to this show that I produced and directed and designed and did everything on, adapted. I produced this show downstairs from where my boss is, where our theater company was, and brought them, and they were like, okay, it's time for you to kind of just go off on your own and not be an assistant anymore. And so I got my real estate license along with a couple other actors, like as our day job. And then, you know, as life happens, things change, and my day job took over and became my main job. But still, I like being creative. I like entertaining. I like, you know, always came from a perspective of joy and making people smile and connecting with people in that joyous, wonderful way that I think, you know, the theater and a lot of entertainment has the capacity to do. And so cut to my modern real estate world. And so I figured out a way to make these real estate videos almost like short films. So the first one I did was a branding video. It was a video for my real estate team. And I basically got this concept of like $1 Million Listing meets The Office, but with kids. And I put my son in the video as like a cutthroat real estate agent on my team. And it was a mix of some scenes, like a single camera where the camera's kind of documentary style, and then like confessionals where the people on the team are talking to the camera, kind of like Jim or you know, on The Office, or you know, one of the characters in The Office. So that was the first one. Then I did a couple others that were like that. And in 2021, actually in 2018, I got a job working for these developers who were building 9 townhouses. And we had been working on these townhouses for many years, from the architectural plans to advising on design choices, even advising on like, this is the footprint of the block. how many buildings should we build? Should we build 8 15-footers or 7 18-footers? One of them was going to be the most expensive property in the neighborhood ever sold. It was going to be really, really high end, the most expensive finishes, fixtures, appliances, every single thing about the house was going to be really, really above and beyond. It had an elevator, it had a 2-car garage, and this was kind of like the crown jewel in this developer's portfolio. So it was supposed to be ready in fall of 2020. This development of 9 townhouses. Construction was obviously stopped for the pandemic, and these houses weren't ready until 2021. So this house came on the market in April of 2021, just as Broadway was reopening. So in my theater career, I spent several summers directing and teaching at the Williamstown Theater Festival, and I had a theater company of some of and worked with some of these incredible actors. From I directed Jeremy Strong from Succession in
Oh,
his
wow.
first couple professional productions. I directed a play with Jessica Chastain, who won the Academy Award a couple of years ago for Best Actress, in her final show at Juilliard. I had a theater company with this actor, Dan Fogler, who's one of the lead actors in all the Fantastic Beasts movies, and he was in The Offer, where he played Francis Ford Coppola. So, I have this amazing group of old friends that I can call on to get ideas from. And so I got this idea to promote this house, and to really celebrate the house and to really celebrate the return of Broadway. So I'm like, I've got to do something like a big splashy Broadway musical. And so you remember the movie American Beauty?
Yes, yes.
There's this famous scene that Annette Bening is in where she plays a real estate agent, and she's like in her like nice clothes for an open house, but like these yellow gloves, and she's
Oh,
squeegeeing the window, and she's like
yeah.
mopping the floor and cleaning up this house before an open house. And she's like, I must sell this house today. Um, so I got that idea, and then I kind of also really love the beginning of this movie, Adventures in Babysitting, with Elizabeth Shue, where it's from the 90s. Again, a lot of my inspiration are from movies from the 80s and 90s. And she's dancing across her room, getting dressed for a date. So I thought, oh, I'm going to basically do both of that. I'm going to create a mashup between American Beauty and Adventures in Babysitting. And it's going to be me cleaning up and getting ready this house before an open house, but I'm going to be dancing from place to place. So I immediately called up the production company that I film all of this stuff with. He loved the idea. I called a friend of mine from Williamstown Theater Festival, who is an incredible choreographer and director named Marlo Hunter, and reached out to her and said, "Hey, I have this idea. Can you choreograph this thing?" She's like, "Oh my God, that sounds insane, but I love it." And so I just got this idea of, okay, we're going to start in this room, and then I'm going to go in this room. Then I'm going to go up the stairs and go in this room and basically dance my way through the entire house. But what the beautiful thing is we were really focused on the house. Like my dancing and stuff is great, but it's really a method to get from one room to another in a fun way. But it's at the end of the day, like the main character is the house. And so, we want to keep eyeballs glued to the screen for as long as possible. And so I cannot dance. I'm not a dancer. I never was trained as a dancer. And so I was like, oh, Marlo, I want you to get a professional Broadway dancer to be my body double, who will be cartwheeling and tap dancing throughout this house. And we'll shoot it in such a way that it'll make it look like I'm doing all the dancing. So if you don't know me, you'll think that it's me dancing. You'll be like, oh, this guy, is a former actor or whatever. But if you do know me, it'll be like just kind of almost an inside joke. And so
it looked exactly like you. It's
yeah,
crazy. The
so we
editing
hired
was
this
crazy.
guy, and I bought these identical suits. his hair was different than mine. So then we got this idea that we'll both wear these fedoras. And yeah, we did this amazing video that won an award recently at the New York Real Estate Video Awards, which is actually a real thing. And it was a real honor to win this beautiful statue from Line City, which was started by the folks who started OLR in New York, which is like our MLS. And Line City is kind of a competitor to Street Easy. And so they produced this thing. And yeah, so we did this great video, put it on YouTube. It got a ton of views. It went viral. It really did help sell the house because these kids that were watching YouTube videos happened upon the video. Their parents were looking for a house. They showed it to their parents. They were looking for a house in Manhattan, in like the West Village. These buyers showed the video to their broker, who's like a Manhattan broker, brought them to Brooklyn to see the house. And they were actually ended up looking at 2 houses in Brooklyn. But my house was the one with the viral famous video with a crazy real estate agent dancing and tap dancing through it. And we ended up getting the buyers, and it was paid all cash for $9 million. And it was the most expensive house ever sold in the area. But that was
amazing.
Yeah, not everybody needs to make these fully like realized short films, but the moral of the story is really like if you're leaning into something that brings you joy, something that you love, you're not going to, you're going to be successful at making something that expresses that joy and that passion and touches people in a real way, I think. So that's my story about that video. And now I'm like, I have writer's block because that was like my last big splashy video. And it's like, how do I top that? So I don't know, but I'm trying to think of ways.
Your YouTube channel, it's brilliant. And now I have to watch Randy Baru TV, just stream all your videos. I can, watch like any series.
And
so it's on YouTube. All YouTube, right? You have a whole YouTube channel with just under your name.
Yep, at Randy Baru at YouTube. And all my videos are there. We have a lot of really fun ones. I have a Home Alone with my son for a townhouse that we're selling, and it's a really cute video that's a spoof on Home Alone that was done again by.
He looks like he's a professional actor. Does he take acting classes?
No, as a matter of fact, he's super shy if he's in front of a big group of people. He will not. I have begged him to take acting classes. That's like me basically being a director and not having any real actors to direct. So I'm basically forcing my son, not forcing, he enjoys it. But the only people that were there at that Home Alone video, or even the Office meets $1 Million Listing video, it's just me and the filmmakers. So it's like he doesn't have to do something on a stage in front of his friends, which he would be super shy about.
You did a great job. It's a really great job.
It's all about, basically just he's good at just being natural, and that comes across. We made another fun video where I brought in a chef who owns this Jewish deli in Brooklyn called Shelsky's of Brooklyn. That's like this legendary Jewish deli. It's always mentioned in like the top 10 best delis in New York City. And so I brought him into this new house that I was selling. And I love food. That's another one of my passions. And I got this idea for this thing called What's Cookin' New York. And I brought my kids, my son Max, my daughter Sydney, and some of Max's, at that time he was in 3rd grade, so a bunch of his 3rd grade friends. And they were blindfolded while Peter Shelsky was putting these different deli dishes in front of them. So a big giant smoked fish, or some pickled herring, or chicken liver, as well as or a bagel and babka or smoked salmon. And it was put in front of them, and they had to smell it and taste it while blindfolded and try to guess what it was, which was absolutely hysterical to see a little kid picking at this huge smoked fish and not really knowing what they're eating, and trying to guess what it was. So that was another really fun one that we did that did pretty well.
And were you tying it to the kitchen of the house you were trying to
Yep,
sell?
exactly. Showing it to the kitchen, showing the kitchen, and showing off the house kind of in the background and in some other shots. I'm always thinking about what different ways we can show off houses. People
Yeah.
love kitchens. If you're trying to be a little bit different, not doing the same. And I'm a creative person, and I think, if you're a creator, or if you have a passion for something, real estate's a great business because it's something that we can marry our passions to. If you are an amazing designer, and you have an incredible eye, and just the way that you've brought that, just to segue it over to you, just the way that you've been able to bring your passions and love for design and your creative eye to your business has been an amazing benefit to your clients as well. And how are you able to do that? How did you get started in that? Let me pass the mic over to you. And
Yeah, I think a little bit is I'm a control freak. So I tell the client, I'm happy to get the house ready for you, because if I know a lot of agents just tell the client, here, this is what we need you to do, go ahead and do it. But for me, it's like, I'll get the bids. So we're getting a house on the market, and I'll obtain all the bids, and we'll go through all the bids to see what we're going to do to get the house ready for market. And it's just, I'm just controlling that way. I'm like, if I do it, I know I can oversee it, manage all the people, and get it done. And it's stressful. Homeowners don't do this every day. They don't know, and they're busy working. They have another job. They have another life. So once they surrender their home to me and they move out, then I go to town and we approve all the bids. Then I start managing all the workers. Today, when we get off here, I'm going right over to a house we're getting ready for market. The landscaper called me and said, "What do you mean you don't want brown mulch?" I said, "No, I only want black mulch. I walked through with your son last week. We went through everything I wanted." I said, "I'm busy until 12:30. I will be there." So I'll put my boots on. I will go out there. I will walk him through. This is landscaping. I said, "You have plenty of time right now to clean all the garden and when I get there, but only black mulch." So I'm very specific about what I want. I want a specific look. And then we'll start, whether we're painting, it could be painting the interior and exterior, window washing, replacing countertops, backsplash, lighting, sometimes knobs in the kitchen and bathrooms. I call it a mini makeover. I'm not doing it high end, where if you're going to live in the house and it's yours and you're spending a lot more money because you're going to do it exactly the way you want. I try to make it neutral, but that someone can move in and live and be very happy. And then if they want to, gut the kitchen or gut the bathrooms or, raise ceilings or whatever they want to do, they can do that. But at least while they buy the house, they move in, they can live there very comfortably until they decide what they want to do. So I'm working on a lot of houses where that's what I do. And it's really fun to see the before and the after. And sometimes it's really minimal things that I do. I mean, a light fixture, I call lighting is the jewelry to the home. Simple things of changing a light fixture from an 80s light fixture to, maybe a Sputnik. It's so minor, so inexpensive, and it makes such an impact.
So how do you have those conversations with your sellers? Like, do they know that when they're hiring Debbie, that they're going to get a mini makeover for their home? Or, how do you bring it up? Because sometimes the seller might think, do they ever think their home is absolutely perfect as it is? They did this renovation 10 years ago and it's still completely stylish. And how do you have that conversation?
Yeah. So most people know, the whole thing is, the first thing I say is, as I'm sure you looked online, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, everything's online. Buyers are always looking online, sellers looking online. So they're going to look online before they even come to the house. So we have to make sure your house looks really good, because they'll rule it out if what they see online doesn't measure up. And a lot of times in our area, people are moving. They're here over to our area, might be in their, 30s or 40s. And there's a look. I mean, Restoration Hardware, West Elm, everyone knows those stores. That's kind of the look people are comfortable seeing. Now, if they want to go paint red walls and do stuff later, that's one thing. But I explained to them, I love your house. Your house is really great and it's uniquely you. It has nothing to do with that. We're packaging a product and we're putting that out to the market, and we need to be neutral where we're hitting all demographics, all people, and if you walk into a house and you see a bright red wall, immediately your head goes to, oh yeah, I had that about 20 years ago, right? You don't want people to see a red or a mustard color yellow, which the house that we're doing now had that. Now the house is all white. We changed the counters. You want people to walk in the house and not have a reaction to, oh, that looked like my grandmother's house, right? Or that looked like my whatever. It's like, you need it to be neutral and clean. And most people understand that everyone's going to start their search online. And we have to make sure, the only thing that I can control is to make sure it looks good online so they don't rule it out. So it's super important. But sometimes people get attached. I had a man who was very attached to his chandelier. He said, this chandelier is more expensive than the one you just bought, and mine is quality. I said, no, I completely agree. Yours is way more expensive, way nicer. I didn't like it, but I said it was. I mean, it was probably more expensive, but we changed it. Agents had been giving him a low price on what his house would sell for. And I worked with him. He had seen other things that I had sold. So he hung in there. We ratified that offer, probably $500 over the ask price.
Wow.
And he was so happy. But we had a little, you're working with your clients and you know what you want. You want to make the house shine. You want them to get as much as they can, but you don't want to get in a fight with them. But so most people are really good, but he was really tied to that. I said, well, you can take that chandelier with you and then you get to have it. And we're going to put the cheaper one, more modern for the new people. But he was super happy. And how dedicated we are to what we do. I hadn't packed and I was leaving for Europe for Italy and Sicily for 2 weeks. And I had not packed. And the secretary was saying, you need to get out. I went home, packed, went to the airport, packed way too much, but we got the deal done and he was super happy and he took his light fixture with him.
Oh, amazing. That's great. And do you mostly do these to people who then already moved out? What if they're still living there? How do you manage
that? What happens is a lot of people understand that they've got to move out because agents here and buyers will want to see a house at a drop of a hat. And it's really impossible if you have a dog or kids or anything, and to keep the house neat. I mean, agents will come by and they'll call you from the sign and say, oh, I'm out in front of the house. Can I look at it? So we can say yes when it's vacant. If it's not vacant, people go on to the next house. So people do understand that. However, there are times where people are like, no, I'd like to live here. Can we paint? How do you paint around someone who's living in the house? First of all, I mean, when they think about it, when you're talking through it, it's like, well, how are we going to paint the house when you're living in the house? And so they start to think,
oh, do they just like rent a different house? Do they stay in a hotel until their home is sold? How does that work?
Some people will go on vacation. Some people will just move and rent a place for a time. Yeah, no, every house, I would say 99.9% of the houses we sell, people move out. And some think that they might be able to stay. And then as you start to talk them through it, they're like, oh yeah, how are we change the green carpet when, our stuff is here? Where are we, then you're going to be moving twice. You're going to move it out. And then, so what happens here, a storage bin comes to your doorstep. A lot of times the stuff will go into storage. And then they'll just go find a place to live and they're out. Gosh. Like right now he's renting a house until we get it sold, and then he's going to buy a house. But yeah, I know it's so different in New York. So how do you do it there?
People would do that. That would be amazing. I mean, we mostly sell houses or apartments that people are living in while we're showing them. And, you know, it's a hassle for everybody. I know what it's like, because now, like about a year ago, I was renting a house from someone, renting an apartment, and our landlord had it on the market for sale before I started renting it from him. And I met him directly off a Facebook parents group. And when we signed the lease, he said, you know, I said, can we do a 2-year lease? He said, no, let's start it with a 1 year, because I may want to sell it after a year. And I said, well, okay, but only if you sell it, only if you use me to sell it. Otherwise, I can't promise that the place won't be a pigsty during open houses, because I have 2 kids, and my motivation level to make it clean is going to be much better if I get the listing. He's like, yeah, okay. And then I was like, no, I'm serious. So sure enough, unfortunately, he decided to put it on the market. Fortunately and unfortunately, he decided to put it on the market like near the end of our lease. And, you know, now I was the guy who had to clean up the whole house before the open houses that I did. So the open house would be at like 11 to, we do open houses on Sundays. So typically in New York City, it's every Sunday. That's the day that all the, you know, people go around and tour all the open houses. And so I would do the open house from 11 to 12:30. My wife would take the kids out of the house by 9, so that I had 2 hours to get it ready for the open house. And I mean, it's a hassle. And then I have people calling me on a, you know, Tuesday morning, can I see it at 6:30 Tuesday night? And it's like, okay, well, now I have to figure out where my kids and my wife are going to go so that I could show my own apartment.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Really, really tough. Really tough. Whoop. That's weird. Okay. I'm just going to do a notification thing.
I think the live is not on anymore because it's been an hour already. So
okay. So I think it's time to end the broadcast now. That was Barbara calling me to remind me that we have about an hour, and I think that the live may have stopped. So okay. Okay, hold on one sec here. Okay, 1 second here. All right, so we'll end it here. Many thanks, Deborah, or Debbie. My wife's name is Deborah, so
Debbie.
So many thanks to Debbie DiMaggio for joining on the LinkedIn live chat today. It was such a pleasure getting to meet you at B. Corcoran in Nashville, and this was amazing.
Thank you so much. It was really fun. Forward to doing this again, hopefully next week. And we have so many things to talk about, I think. And it's fun to see the East Coast, West Coast, and talk about all the differences. So
absolutely. It's great. It's great. So many thanks. Have a great afternoon. And to everyone who joined us, thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.